Into the breach once more, my friends. I think I've used that opening line before. It's time for the match preview, and this is. We call all of these the big match preview, but this is a big one because if we don't win this, it's pretty much done. It's done and dusted. Well, I guess we'll see because we might pull up a result against Bristol City, Cov, or West Brom. Who knows? I'll tell you who does know. It's my co-host. It's Mark Ryman. How are we getting on, Mark?
I do not know. But I do tell you, I do know that if we don't win this, then we are screwed, I think you may well be right there, regardless of the results afterwards. But yeah, I don't know if it's squeaky bum time, because I feel like you feel really, we all feel a bit deflated after the Blackburn game. Although, Friday, everyone who's going to Pride Park, make sure you're in that corner getting behind them, and that we don't have a back pass go under the foot of the goalkeeper and in the back of the net. Hey, that wasn't the last time I was there, but that still is etched onto my brain.
Yeah. Oh, what a season that was. One of great escapes. Yeah, we survived. Yeah. We did indeed. But anyway, now it's time for the recap. Let's take a look back very briefly. I don't dwell on this. It's Luton 0, Blackburn 1. So this is one that doesn't, everyone was very deflated after this one. Penny for your thoughts, Ryman.
Yeah, that deflated. I was feeling really optimistic going into the game. We just seemed to have turned a corner despite quite a few draws in the last few games, but the momentum of that last minute or almost last minute equaliser I thought would see some real attacking play. I was hoping for Borough at home, but instead I got Derby at home, although we won that game. But that kind of game, it just felt really, really flat. Third game in a 3-game week just seems to be consistent killer for Luton. I think, defensively we're okay. Clearly players were probably ill as well. We just didn't make the most of our wingers, as far as I'm concerned, or our wing backs rather. They didn't get us forward as anywhere near as much. And in the few moments that they did in the first half, we did look really dangerous. We got in a couple of times and no one up front really to put the ball in the back of the net, but we looked dangerous when they were taking on players. It just never really happened. I think the nerves, the fatigue, whatever it was just really, really flat. And they took the one chance that they had, courtesy of a mistake by, you'd probably say McGuinness, right, in terms of the attacking move where Hashi scored. They took their chance. It felt like one of those games that we were going to get punished in, and we did. And then they went down to 10 men, and it felt even more frustrating, if that's possible. But yeah, we could have had 30 minutes added on at the end and never scored in that game. Too many of those happened at Kenilworth Road this season, haven't there? There's been far too many un-Luton-like performances at home. Yeah, disappointed. And now we have given ourselves an almighty mountain to climb to have any chance of staying in this league.
Well, you've hit it on the head there. It was a very un-Luton-esque performance, and it's been a long time since we've really seen consistent Luton performances. Yeah, I don't really know what else to add there. No attacking threat. Carlton Morris to Heath Chong. Ghosts, anonymous. Carlton Morris, he spends more time complaining to the ref than he does actually running into the box. The fastest you see him move is when he goes over to argue with the ref. And to Heath Chong, I said it in my post-match, can't pass, can't control the ball, can't head the ball. What is the point of Tahith Chong? There is no point, and he's one I'll gladly see the back of come the summer if there are any takers for him, which I doubt there will be.
It's just really sad, isn't it? I was probably more excited about the signing of Tahith Chong than I had been about any player for a long time. And I include madly Ross Barkley in that, obviously,
What?
Yeah, I do. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But, Ross Barkley at the time when we signed him, I thought, wow, that's a big name. But I was probably more excited by the Chong signing in terms of potential based on...
Because he's got the hair.
They've done. Yeah, the hair was what it was. Obviously, that sounds ridiculous now. it's easy to go, well, that's a stupid point to make. But, look, Ross Barkley had sort of dwindled away in the French league for a season and didn't look like he fancied it anymore. Who knew what was coming there? What an excellent signing it turned out to be. But Chong, on the other hand, has been nothing really but a disappointment for most of the time, bar a couple of moments. So yeah, I have to agree with you, and I've been singing Morris's praises, and arguing with you about it, but I can't argue this one. I thought he was poor, but I also think the tactic of lumping it up to Morris after about 5 minutes, when it was clear that Danny Bath had his number, was a pointless one as well. I mean, at that point, you go, right, that's not working. We need to attack in a different way. We'll talk about that a bit when we talk about our kind of suspected lineup, but. Yeah, no arguments with you on this week when it comes to those two. Very, very poor.
Oh, well, yeah, so many words to say. Ollie, you're right. I love it. I love it.
I will never utter that phrase ever.
Okay, well, let's have a look at some team news. This week, live from the Shandon Baptiste Memorial Physiotherapy Room, we have Alfie Dowsey's out, probably for the season. Elijah Adebayo, long-term absentee. Jacob Brown, also a long-term absentee. Shandon Baptiste, apparently he's ready, but, he wasn't anywhere near the bench for the last game, so I'll just say he's probably out, isn't he? And Tom Lockyer, a long-term absentee. Daiki Hashioka, he was at the open training day today, and the club shared a picture of him coming out the tunnel, which I thought was a very weird one. Why glorify a player that's pretty much been bombed out of the starting lineup, along with Mads and Ruel Walters?
Well, yeah, I was going to say about Mads and Ruel Walters at the start of the. Maybe they're trying to interest some bidders just to get them out there.
By what, having them that's out it. Talking with
that was the closest they'll get.
Wayne Turner. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. I think, Alfie Doughty, we know he's out for the season now, don't we? After that post from the club, so that and I know that he's not been the Alfie Doughty of last season, but he's still a massive miss. We need options, and we know we're really light in those positions. But Daiki Hashioka, Ruel Walters, they haven't seen anything since Bloomfield's been in. I'm not really complaining too much about that, particularly when it comes to Walters. We'll see when we talk about it at the end of the season. But it's pretty much as you were, which going forward-wise is a little bit worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very worrying. So in terms of starting lineup, do we go for it? Bloomfield seems quite risk averse. Do we see a youth player on the bench this week?
It depends what you mean by go for it. I don't agree really about risk averse. I mean, he was in his previous substitutions against Blackburn. I think that was a little bit out of character, though. I mean, against Stoke, we're away from home. Alfie Doughty gets injured. He could have easily put Naismith on and Bell on there, and he didn't. He put Ali on. I think that was a pretty bold move, to be fair. That was with, 75 minutes of the game to go as well. So he has shown he's willing to make attacking changes. I agree about the last game, but the two central defenders coming on in Menke and Burke was interesting. But yeah, I think go for it in terms of formation-wise. For me, it has to be a 4-3-3. Absolutely has to be a 4-3-3. And you accept that Ali, who I'd put on the wing, for example, and maybe put Naismith in there as well. I think we need that leadership in the game. I think if we're going to put if Naismith is going to play again for us at the end of the season, I doubt we'll sign him. We'll see. But if Naismith is going to play again, it has to be in this game. We need that leadership there. So I would play a 4-3-3 with Naismith in there, and then put him where he's most dangerous. Yeah, or Bell, and play him as centre back and take out one of the two centre backs, Makosso or McGuinness, both of which
I'd say Makosso should be playing right back. He's got some pace. Just give him the ball and let him run.
Yeah, agree. He's just looked a bit knackered in the last week, in the last two games, actually, and he's come off in both of them. But yeah, it could just be the illness thing that we're talking about too. But either way, I think you've got to put Ali particularly where he belongs, which is our wing, where he can make things happen. If we want to score goals, we can't play the two up front. It just doesn't work. It really doesn't. And we can't put Morris up front on his own, or Nordas. And, neither of them for me. So that's what I'd say. And yeah, absolutely. Get some youth on the bench by all means. We don't need 3 central defenders on the bench, do we? So yeah. I know it's a novelty for us, but we really don't need it. I think you're right. Yeah, Taylor and Harris, whoever we've got,
or Takawira, get someone on. Get anyone on. I'd play the youth anyway because they're fearless. They might not be as good, but they're fast. They're unpredictable. They're fearless, and I'd keep the midfield the same. I think the midfield's working. I like Asgard's. Liam Walsh and Jordan Clark. I think that works. It's probably the only part of the team that's actually working at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. Jordan Clark in particular.
He keeps everything ticking. Yeah, he's fantastic. He really is. Right. Let's have a word from the opposition. So no Phil this week. He's pissed off for Easter break, like you are, Ryman. No
comment.
I met with the opposition. Here's Ryan Dilks from the Second Tier Pod. Take it away, Ollie. Who would have thought that? I've literally just nicked that line from Ryan, by the way, because he logs on and he says, who would have thought? Yeah, well, as promised, here's Ryan Dilks from the Second Tier Pod. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. So,
hi, everybody.
Yeah. So, the last time we met was at the great robbery of Kenilworth Road last year, which was, funnily enough, the last time Carlton Morris and Elijah Adebayo scored. I know, when you put it like that, it sort of shows the sad state of affairs of Luton Town right now. So, Ryan, why don't Derby want to just stay at the bottom and muck in with the rest of us?
Because John Eustace has come along and said, actually, no, I think we can do something here. Yeah, look, when we both met last time out, it was a pretty miserable state of affairs for both clubs, wasn't it? Derby were on a one-way course to relegation under Paul Warne. We were in a real mess. And I don't think we were actually at the peak of that mess when we first met. It was like at the start of that big downturn, and then it just went from bad to bad to bad to worse. And then Paul Warne got sacked, a bit too late for a lot of Derby fans' liking, and then we somehow got John Eustace, a guy who was managing a team aiming for the playoffs, and he has completely turned around our fortunes, and now Derby fans are quietly confident about getting out of this. I don't think we're counting our chickens just yet because Championship, anything can happen, what have you. But right now, you'd say it's looking pretty favourable for a side like Derby.
So yeah, it started off, his reign, it started off a bit trepidatious, didn't it?
Yeah.
But once you got that first win, I think the first win was Blackburn, I think.
Yeah, ironically.
Yeah, I know, right? Blackburn, who have been very charitable and have been letting all the teams at the bottom of the table beat them, apart from Luton.
Yeah.
And you just haven't looked back. You went on a tremendous run of form, 4 wins on the spin, which sort of elevated you out of that relegation mire. Like, you're still in it to some degree. And if it wasn't for a Rob Atkinson hat-trick, you could have gone above Portsmouth.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about, isn't it? Because that, how costly could that goal be at the end of the season? Hopefully it won't be. But yeah, you're absolutely spot on. I think all John Eustace has done is just made us much more organised and have a bit more confidence going forwards. Because that was the big thing. Towards the end of the Warne reign, Derby just didn't have a clue what they were doing when they had the ball. It was hoofball, and when we actually got into the final third on the very rare occasions that we did, it was 9 times out of 10 an aimless cross into the middle, which got easily dealt with. When Eustace has just told these players, you're better than this, and he's got them playing actually all right football. Being organised is the main bedrock of this upturning form. Don't get me wrong about that, but getting in some players who are happy to have the ball, like your Marcus Harnesses, for example. Harrison Armstrong, who's come in on loan from Everton, has been superb in the middle of the park. Yeah, these players look like they actually have a bit of confidence about them now and a bit of tactical nous, which was seriously lacking under the previous manager. So yeah, John Eustace, what a bloke.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to keep it simple. You really do. And he hasn't come in and torn everything up. You're still playing a three at the back. It's sort of a 3-4-3 with Mendes Lang and Jerry Yates off Marcus Harness, right? So Harness is like sort of the pivot. He's the harness at the top. That's sort of that Mendes Lang and Jerry Yates sort of hang off and pivot around. And Jerry Yates scored a absolutely fantastic header against Portsmouth. Like the technique on that was fantastic. So other than Armstrong, who has really stepped up over the past 10 games with the improved form?
The defence, basically, because they're much more organised. I mean, Matt Clark, I've always been a big fan of, even before he rejoined Derby. I could not believe it when we signed him. I just assumed he'd be going to, if he wasn't going to play at Middlesbrough, he'd be going to a top half championship side. So I still don't really understand how he got him in, because he's just a brilliant defender. A Norwegian lad at centre-back called Sondre Langas has come in, who's a really, really good defender. He cost us £4 million, so you'd expect him to be, but he's looks a really good player. But Nat Phillips is another one as well, who has been on loan at Derby all season. Didn't really get much of a look in the first half of the season, but since Eustace has come in, has really stepped up his game. So those three in particular, but pretty much everyone's stepped up their game under Eustace, because everyone was playing really, really poorly before he came in. And you'd say Harness and Armstrong are the two in particular who have stood out the most, but basically the whole side have really upped their game.
So it's that simple. Just organise the team, tell people what they need to do, and then bish, bash, bosh, the performances improve and the results come with it. I don't know why Luton can't do this. I mean, we've looked much better under Bloomfield, no doubt, and you've obviously noticed it from your pods. Oh, by the way, where are my manners, Ryan? Would you like to plug where you come from? Not that it matters, because you have 100 times as many followers as we do. But go on, Ryan. Bit of free publicity.
Thanks, guys. Second Tier Podcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow us, subscribe to us, do whatever you want. And we'll hopefully be covering Luton again next season, but I think as time goes on, that's looking increasingly less likely, isn't it?
I think so. We'll talk about your bets off camera as well, because I know that's a good one. I hope it comes in, mainly because it means Luton Town don't finish bottom, but I know I don't think that's going to happen, Ryan. I'm very sorry. So where is the danger going to come from in this game, or is it going to be a case of Derby let Luton come onto them and then try and hit them on the counter?
Yeah, that's by and large what we try to do. But the big danger for Luton, I guess, is our strength from set pieces, because it has been the strength for us all season. We have scored more goals from set pieces than any other team in the Championship, and we seem to be particularly prolific from them now because we've appointed this new set piece consultant who's really helped us improve our game in that. But it also helps that we have now got three centre-backs who are, big, burly boys and are really, really dangerous when it comes to attacking set pieces. So Luton need to be on their game when it comes to that, because, to be honest, that's by far our most threatening part of our game. If we score from open play, it's usually from a cross of some sort. It's very rare that we score from a through ball or anything like that. So yeah, that's where Luton needs to be on their guard, because if you're not, Derby will punish you.
Interesting, because funnily enough, Luton have been very good defending set pieces, especially under Bloomfield. He's really strengthened us defensively. It's just he's got nothing to work with up top. So you haven't really been missing the likes of Curtis Nelson. Has Langas stepped in and sorted it?
Yeah, I kind of forget about Curtis Nelson, to be honest, because earlier in the season he was without a doubt, one of our standout centre halves. We had Aaron Cashin as well, who's since been sold to Brighton for an 8-figure fee. Yeah,
forgot about him as well.
Yeah, well, he was. That was a big blow initially, but then when we got in Clark and Langas, it's been like, oh, actually, we're all right. Even though Cashin was absolutely superb, and I still think will go on to be a very good player. Getting in someone as good as Matt Clark has really kind of eased that blow to the point where we don't even really feel it anymore. So yeah, Nelson and Cashin were our first choice centre halves at about Christmas time, and now it's completely changed. We've got 3 completely different centre halves who look just as maybe even slightly more solid.
Amazing! What a difference a new manager makes. Can you believe it? I'm still in shock. I'm shocked by this turnaround at Derby, and to be honest, this game is so important for both teams. I'd say it's more important for Luton in the sense that if we don't get a win from this, essentially we got Bristol City, Cov, and then West Brom, 3 teams who are all trying to fit into those 2 playoff spots now. So I think it's balls to the wall. There's going to be a lot riding on this, but we also do a prediction league. You'll know about this, where we give you 6 games to predict. I'm just going to ask you about one today, which is obviously going to be Derby Luton Town. So what do you think is going to happen?
I mean, earlier today, in fact, pretty much this whole morning, I've just spent my day looking at the league table thinking, this game on Friday is absolutely massive, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Like, you cannot understate how big this game is. It is basically a relegation playoff in a way, isn't it? Because I think if Derby win, that's probably just about it for Luton. Dependent a lot on what happens in the whole game. Obviously, recording this before that. Sorry if I'm breaking the fourth wall there, but yeah, that should mean Derby will be staying up. I would have thought, or just about there. A draw doesn't really help Luton either, does it? It's just got to be a win for the Hatters. And with that being said, I think that means Derby have the onus to just kind of soak it in, really, and not have to worry. It's not the end of the world if they don't get the win. And I think that pressure will be a massive, massive help for them and maybe deter Luton somewhat. So, yeah, I'll be siding with Derby getting something. Whether that's a win or a draw, I'm not too sure. Derby seem to have this habit of not getting the job done, which is irritating because I would really like the job done, mainly for my hairline, so I don't lose any more hair over the final few weeks of the season. But yeah, I'll go with a Derby win because I've got to back my own side. So I'll go for 1-0 Derby, because I think if Derby do get an early goal, then they'll just happily sit back, soak it all in, and Luton, as we know, aren't the greatest going forwards. So they'll find it hard to break down this Derby side, I imagine.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, having to soak it all in. With Luton, there's not much to soak in.
Yeah.
It's like taking a thimble of water and throwing it on a carpet. You know, there's barely anything there to soak in. Yeah, I think that's fair. And I'll be giving my score prediction later on in this show. Ryan, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate your time, mate.
No worries, Ollie. Speak to you again very soon. Well,
hopefully. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Maybe the season afterwards. Hopefully that'll be the case at least.
Yeah. All right. So there you have it. Dilksy thinking that Derby are going to win. To be honest, I've gone for the optimistic one this week, which we'll talk about it later. But yeah, he's got some good points. Right, so Ryman, what Derby players are worrying you in this game?
Yates, probably.
Yeah.
Good player, can find the back of the net. I think he's found a bit more form this season. He's been a bit up and down, hasn't he? He looked really, really promising when he was at Blackpool. It was Blackpool, right, with the Yates. And and I think, he struggled a bit this season to really get going. I think Derby are one of those teams that who aren't going to just do this, but they'll put a lot of balls in the box, and it's going to test us that way. I think generally we've been relatively comfortable there, so I'm not so worried about it in that respect. I think they're defensively they're pretty strong, and in the centre of midfield they're pretty strong. We're going to find it very hard to get past them. I think it's going to be that really that's going to be our issue and our undoing. But Yates, if he is given a chance, I fancy him to finish one off, so I'll go with him.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty much anyone over 6'2", because when they put those balls into the box, the likes of Clark and Yates and Harness, they're going to be all over it. Every set piece, they'll be up there trying to win them. I'm not so worried about Ebou Adams because I think midfield is good. It's purely going to be about all the balls that go into the box. Right. So let's have a look to our score predictions.
Right, I've gone for a 1-1. I'd as much as I'd love to predict Luton to win. My 2-1 streak ended, although I did predict 2-0. It's my own fault for changing the 2-1 formula really against Blackburn. Feel free, to blame me for that game. Yeah, 1-1. I can't see us beating Derby. I think it'll be a bit of a stalemate, to be perfectly honest. I think we both said it'll be a lot of balls into the box from their end. I fancy us to deal with that for the most part. But yeah, I think they'll probably find a way to score at home. I think we'll struggle and we might get, a last gasp equaliser, a bit like Stoke. It'll be that sort of game as well, I think. Yeah, 1-1.
I've gone for a goalless 0-0. Well, I don't know why I said goalless, because 0-0 obviously is goalless.
It's always goalless.
It is, yeah. I don't think Luton have enough in their locker to actually penetrate Derby. I think Derby are going to sit back, soak it up, and then try and counter. And I think defensively we're good enough to deal with whatever they can counter us with even. And I agree with you. I think anything that gets chucked into the box, I think defensively we're all right. But a draw is not what we need. This is a 6-pointer. We need those 3 points. We do not want them to have those 3 points. So that is it really. But a 0-0 would be the same scoreline that they had against Burnley. And if they can keep Burnley out, they're definitely going to be able to keep us out.
Yeah, that's very true. Although by the same logic, they did concede 2 goals to Pompey. I agree that was away from home though. So I get what you're saying completely. They're going to be, they're going to need more than a draw as well, because 1 point isn't enough for them either. Obviously they're in a better position than us, but they've got Cardiff breathing down their neck still. So they need 3 points too. Whether that will add to the spectacle or take away from it, I'm not quite sure.
See, you'd hope they'd attack for that reason. And if they attack, then it does leave a bit at the back. And the likes of Clark and, I haven't seen enough of Lungus, whatever his name is. But Clark is not fast. If you can isolate him against like an Alley or a Jones, then we could have some luck. But I just don't think we're progressive enough for that, and even if we manage to isolate and get past them and cross the ball in, Colton Morris is going to be like breaking a lung, like trying to get into the box to get on the end of it.
Well, this is my other reason for playing that 4-3-3, because you've got a player on every one of those 3 at the back for Derby as well. And it gives you a chance, doesn't it? Because we've got pace now. That is one thing to say about Luton that we couldn't have said most of this season, is we have got pace, and Derby, I think, will struggle if we use it properly.
Yeah, and they won't expect a 4-3-3, will they?
No.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sadly, I'm not exactly expecting one either, but it's got to change, surely. It's got to.
Yeah, it's do or die right now. It's you gotta take a risk. Imagine playing Taylor and Harris up front with Isaiah Jones on one side, Ali on the other side. Very, sort of inexperienced, but at the same time, a lot of pace. They could have a lot of fun.
Well, I'd take it. I think any of us would, right?
Yeah. Like, because it's not worked yet.
No.
So it's got to happen. It's got to happen. The time is now. But as always, if you've managed to make it to the end of this show and you're not subscribed to the channel, why are you not subscribed? Hit that subscribe button. You will not regret it. Well, you might regret it, but then you could always unsubscribe.
No.
Okay, no. You could always resubscribe and enjoy some more of our good, down to earth, lovely, dovey content. But as always, most importantly, come on, you hatters.
Please.